Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SpouseLink live stream. I'm so excited that everyone is here joining me today. So, military retirement is a big deal. Are you 5 years out thinking you still have a lot of time to sort everything out? 3 years to retirement and feel it kind of looming? 1 year to go, feeling a lot of pressure right now, or months away, and pretty sure you've missed half the things that you needed to do? Or did you make it through mostly unscathed and now you're on the other side living the good life as a civilian? Well, wherever you fall in the stages of retirement, you're not alone. And I'm so glad that you've joined me here today for another SpouseLink live stream. I'd love it if, as you're watching, just pop in the comments where you're joining me from. I have three of the most amazing guests going on today. But first, let me introduce myself really quickly. I'm Anna Larson. I am a SpouseLink ambassador for retired and transitioning military families. And by trade, I'm a copywriter and a digital marketer. I'm also a homeschool mom. I'm a retired military spouse. So just over a year ago, actually just under a year ago, my service member retired after 22 and a few months, years in the military from the U.S. Army. And that process is what led me to SpouseLink and what kind of created this opportunity to bring more information and bring more resources to military spouses that were also facing this very giant looming journey. And I've been able to do that through SpouseLink. And if you aren't familiar with SpouseLink was created in 2012 by AFMA, which is the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. And they work really hard to connect military spouses with the information that matters the most. And if you haven't been there, you can go find them at SpouseLink. Search for SpouseLink at AFMA and you're going to find them there. So again, tell me where you're joining from. And I'm just going to jump in and talk about my guests really quick because I really want to spend as much time as possible with them on the screen with me. I have three amazing women that are going to join me. And the way this all came about, it was very interesting. So this live stream is kind of imagined by the four of us because we all realized that each stage of retirement kind of had its own moment. They're all military spouses. They're all in different timelines of that retirement and transition process. And all three of them are in their very own way kind of invested in helping military spouses that are going through retirement to reach that giant milestone with less stress and more success for finding that kind of ultimate goal of what they really want to. So let me pull up. I'm going to add this in and I'm going to just share really quick their biographies. So we've got Selena Conmackey, the owner of Wholly Socially Inspired, co-founder of AnnaandSelena.com. She helps businesses create websites and designs that make people ooh and ah and click. She's also the co-host of a weekly business live stream show that supports behind-the-scenes tech for a number of others. She's a military spouse following her husband with her kid and dog in tow to wherever the Army sends them. Olivia Perez Breland is the marketing communications manager for Hire Military, which is an organization dedicated to helping veterans and military spouses find meaningful employment. Prior to working with Hire Military, Olivia developed and led creative arts programs for children. She taught children across 3 different states how to play the ukulele, and that's how she picked up her LinkedIn tagline, The Ukulele Lady. And then we have Jennifer Pasquale, who is the founder of Pride and Grit. She's also a strengths coach. So Pride and Grit is a community dedicated to supporting the personal development journey of seasoned military spouses and helping them thrive in the final season of their military life. She's a Gallup certified strengths coach and helps individuals and teams uncover and fall in love with their unique strengths. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guests. There's Olivia and Selena and Jen. Hi, ladies.
Good
Well,
morning.
hello, Anna.
Good morning.
I know it's kind of interesting to have all three of us on here again. And we're all like, okay, who talks first? What do we do? Right. I want to kind of just go back a little bit and just share the story of kind of how this live stream came about. We were meeting for a completely separate reason. It was a marketing conversation, actually, because all of us are involved in some way with that marketing aspect. And it was just the four of us that had happened to fall on the call. And before you knew it, it had swapped from marketing and turned into retirement. And I think because we were all in different stages of where we were at, we just started like kind of having that conversation about how difficult it is. The goods, I would say the pros and the cons. When you say like maybe pros and cons of where we sat with that retirement. And anyhow, overall, let's start with Selena. Selena, can you tell everyone why you think this conversation is so important to have?
Well, it was funny, that day that we were all chatting, like you said, was for a completely different reason. And we kind of fell into, and I can't remember if it was Jen that had asked a question, and it just really led us into like an hour long of this or that. And at the end, we just felt together there was so much value, right? Like in this, and I think we all just had agreed, like if we're having this conversation, others must want to have it. And if they don't, we should have it so they feel inclined to be part of a conversation like this. So that was, that was my answer to that question. So
I'm going to toss Olivia in there. Olivia, can you tell us what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, no, it was like a therapy session for me. And honestly, you guys are like my therapist, because we're on the cusp of that 20-year mark where we're doing the do we stay or do we go, pros and cons, making the list, trying to figure it out. And I am just leaning on the wisdom of my friends right now, to be honest.
And then Jen, share with us what you were thinking as far as this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important because I don't think we do it enough. I think sometimes there can be this idea that like if I say the word retirement out loud, it might come faster than I want it to, like it might happen before I'm ready. And so I think as a result, we don't actually have these conversations because we don't want to be attached to the conversation. But the reality is like we need the conversations and we need them so much earlier than we think we do. So yeah, anytime, anywhere, I'm happy to talk.
I'm just going to say I'm testament to the fact that no matter how much you might not want it to happen, it happens. It comes whether you want it to or not. It's on its way. So Jen, before I let you drop down, can you just tell everybody kind of like where you're at as far where you and your family are at as far as stages of retirement, kind of your military story, give everybody a little bit of background about
Absolutely. So I am 16 this year. This year? Yes. No. Yes. This year, 16-year military spouse. My husband has been in uniform for 24 years this year. So we've certainly been doing this together for a long time. While he is not, at the point of like hanging up the uniform, we have decided that for the kids and I, we want some stability. And so we settled us in the DC area so that we could help create a little stability. He's going to, he'll work out of here for a while and then we'll sort of see how that goes. But we wanted the kids to be able to have that opportunity to, go to school with kids they're going to graduate with. And sort of, for us, it was important that we didn't move them around a lot in high school. That was just a choice he and I made. And that might come with maybe not spending all the next few years with him if he, has a position that he wants to take somewhere else. But for right now, we're just going to settle into being in the DC area and make that kind of forever for now for the kids and I.
Do you have a timeline in place? Like, are you thinking 4 years, 2 years?
Well, so like for our kids, there's 6 years until they're finished with school. So that's the first mark on the wall for me in terms of then figuring out where do we want to live? What would we want to do? What is he doing at that time? So 6 years is a long time. And that, is sort of hard to imagine. So for now, we'll just take it a year at a time. But it's been fun for the kids to kind of process the fact that, oh, these are the kids I might actually get to graduate with. That's, that was never something they had thought of before. And so now they're starting to actually consider that as their new reality, which is kind of fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and we'll have to jump back into that, but it puts a different set of stressors and strains on your family because your spouse is still serving and PCSing without his family now.
Right. Yeah. And it's not the right choice for everybody, right? It just happened to be the right choice for us. And, I was one of those people who said I would never do it. We'd never be, separated for any reason by choice. And yet, sometimes you just make different choices that you didn't envision when you were younger and your kids were younger. And that the needs were different.
Yeah, so true. Okay, I'm going to throw Olivia in here. Olivia, can you answer that same question? Just where you're at in your journey and
Sure. Yeah. So, my husband and I have been on this journey the whole time. I was actually the one that dropped him off at basic training with our youngest daughter in my belly. And I remember just crying like all the way home because I knew he wasn't going to be there for her birth. And this was in the period right after 9/11. So, my emotions were already, crazy. Imagine dropping your husband off at basic training, in the midst of a major conflict. It was a very scary time, a lot of uncertainties, but it's almost 20 years later now that we've done this journey. We've PCS'd, a million times, lived all these wonderful places, had all these wonderful adventures together, raised our children throughout this whole process. And now we're at the other end, where our children are grown and flown, but we're still here. We're still doing the Army thing, right? So, and it is a different experience when you don't have the kids at home anymore, because when we used to PCS, that was sort of the thing that plugged us into the community. You guys know this right away. Where are the homeschool co-ops? Where are, the parent groups? How do I plug my kids in? And through plugging your children in, you got plugged in and you got friends, you became friends of their parents and whatnot. But now that the kids are gone, we don't have that instant community anymore. So it's a weird thing. We're in a weird place right now, Anna, and we're just trying to figure it out as we go.
And so for you, do you have a timeline? Do you and your spouse have a timeline right now for retirement, looking at that date?
So it's funny you ask, because I think my timeline and his timeline may be slightly different, right? But no, I'm only joking. I'm only joking because I support my husband's career 100%. I really do, because I know that when he hangs up the hat, when he, takes off the uniform for, the last time, there's no going back, and he loves his job. He loves being a soldier. He loves it. And so I don't want to influence him in such a way that he turns his back on a career that truly fulfills his life. And so I'm just powering up to just go down this road for however much longer we're in it. So whether that's, 3 years, 4 to 5 years, if he gets promotion, it could be even longer. So I'm just bracing myself for the long road. But in reality, we could retire now, if we really wanted to, because we're almost at 20 years. So it's kind of a weird situation where it's like,
So I'm curious, Olivia, just to kind of a follow on, do you sense like a hesitation to retire because of the unknown that is on that other side? You've done something for so long, the same job for so long, the same life for so long. And now it's like, there's that cutoff date, right? Of making that next decision.
So I have been guilty of burying my head in the sand. Let's just be honest. I would love to pretend that retirement will never come. I would love to pretend that transition will never happen. Because oh, look at me. I can't fix my hair because the camera switched. But no, I would love to pretend that it will never happen, because I've taken this job stability for granted. Like, it feels really good to know that, okay, the Army probably isn't kicking him out anytime soon. He's probably not going to get laid off. Just some of the things that you really do have to worry about when you're in that civilian work environment. You don't really have the same sort of job stability. You don't have like, hey, we're going to PCS. Don't worry about it. The Army is going to pack us up. They're going to get us there. We'll find housing. There are so many decisions that we don't really have to make when the Army is sort of making those decisions for us. And I think doing that for 20 years, I've kind of grown to rely on that. And it scares me. It scares me to think that one day that's all going to go away. And then we really are going to have to be grown-ups and figure out where we're going to live, what he's going to do for a job. Like, that really, it scares me. And, I don't know really how my husband sees things. I think that from his perspective, he truly, he gets so much value from his work in the Army. He loves it. I mean, he loves it. It is fulfilling to his life. And I think one of the scariest things for him is the possibility that he may transition out and he doesn't have that same fulfillment. I think that really scares him. And so, yeah, I don't know, Anna. I don't know.
Well, I think that totally answers the question. I think that you are absolutely not alone in that position you're at. I think all three of us in this line right here are going, yep, we totally understand this position. And as someone whose spouse has retired, we felt that. It was, what kind of job do you want? I mean, and that just those unknowns, those huge stressful unknowns. And some of it we just had to like sit back and say, we got to just let it happen how it's going to happen. We'll figure out it when it comes, right? Okay. Let me throw Selena in here. Selena, can you share the same information? Tell us your military story and kind of where you're at with the retirement process.
Yeah, I feel like slightly overwhelmed being on this panel because I'm the baby as far as military spouses go, right? I only have 7 years under my belt, but I'm an older woman. And so I feel like this, so I will say this, right? I met my husband, in my hometown. I'm from Oahu, Hawaii. And we were both a year out or a year and a half out of being divorced from our first marriages. And we were looking for the better relationship. We were ready, right? And of course, my rules were no military, no first responders. I can't handle the stress. And what do you know it? I meet my guy. But, we were just in the next chapter of our lives. So we fell in love, as all military spouses do. And you make that decision. And I left home. So my husband, even though I'm 7 years in, my husband is he's at 23 years and we are in our retirement year. He has the official paperwork with the stamp that says approved, because again, I don't know all the proper terminology yet still. So we're in that. And, crazily enough, he got deployed at the same time during his retirement years. So it's funny. I maybe being such a baby as a male spouse has not like given me a lot of these fears, but recently it did start kind of hitting me a little bit that, we don't live on post, so I'm not dug into that life, but it is still going to be a change. We're now not going to be part of this active duty community, right? It's like all of a sudden I'm like, does my husband become a little obsolete because they're like, oh, you're retired, or and that's what I was thinking about. And like Olivia had said, right, is like this is his career. This is what he loves to do. Mm-hmm. And he's getting out, and he's back and forth with the feelings of, he's excited. He's like, I'm ready to get out too. Right. But it's also that what happens afterwards. So.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, okay. So if we were to take a look at where you're at, just now that we kind of know where everybody's at, what would you say is the most difficult part of being in the position you're in right now when it comes to retirement? Because I think so often retirement is focused directly on the service member. It's their career. It's the Army is contracted with them. You can go off and do whatever you want, right? They can't tell you yes or no or anything. But if you want to live with your spouse and if you want to do the things they're going to do, you have to do what the Army tells them to do, right? So we do go on every PCS. We do go we live through every deployment and every training cycle and all of the schooling that they do and the months away and the missed births of babies. And, it's just part of that lifestyle. So what would you say is the most difficult part in terms of the transition situation? Because all of you are thinking and talking about it, and it's a conversation in your home. But we've got Jen, who's possibly 6 to 8 to maybe even 10 years out. No, who's saying no? Olivia is like, I'm ready to do this tomorrow, but my spouse isn't ready. So I'm not quite sure what to do. And Selena who's like, he's deployed and it is coming without fail in the next 6 months.
Right.
I mean, that's a scary place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So just again, that question again, what would you say is the most difficult part for you? Who wants to go first? Let's, I don't know.
I'll dump mine real fast. Is the fact that he's deployed.
Yeah.
I'm very independent, and I've lived a very long civilian life, so I can dip into both worlds and feel secure. But his retiring and all the things that comes with it, I'm like, oh, we need to do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah, I will say that you are at a huge disadvantage because that last year is supposed to be the year where they get the time to finish all the things. And his paperwork, I believe it's October, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's really soon, and
Yeah.
he's been gone for the majority of that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a plan in place, Selena? Like, what's the big plan when he gets home?
I mean, well, okay. In true business fashion, I literally built him a binder because of a recent friend that had all these things, and I said, I don't know, I feel like I need to be doing something as your spouse to help us prepare for your retirement. So I built this binder. I made it according to all these things that was, in this wonderful organization from a fellow milspouse, Heidi Barker. Her husband had created this thing, and he was like, whoa. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I think we need to have it in the binder. So that's what I have done to prepare us, because I feel like that's all I know how to do. Like I said, I don't have, I think the years that you guys have where there's a little bit more knowledge, where you've seen more of, people in your lives retire out and see what they've gone through. And I've honestly only gone through maybe two, Anna and another friend. Really.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you that an agile transition, that organizational tool you're talking about, we're actually going to have Heidi and Michael Barker on at the end of this month to talk specifically about that tool that he's created. Like, when I looked through it, I went, I wish I'd had this, right?
Yeah.
I wish I'd known this existed. And so we're going to be sharing that at the end of the month. So thanks for sharing that, Selena, because that is something that's going to be available for people who are joining us on the next SpouseLink live stream.
Smart.
Okay. Yeah. So that deployment is just, yes, I can see how that would be difficult.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, I'm going to throw you into the spotlight. Tell us what's most difficult for you at this stage?
I think that the sort of the season that we're in is, in some ways, I feel like we're sort of flipping the script a little bit, in that normally, and you've kind of mentioned this, right? And normally we are sort of the trailing spouse, right? And we're the trailing family. And so now for us to sort of flip that around, and for, stability for the kids and stability for me and sort of my professional development to be a priority, creates just some different conversations. Like, as an example, I've noticed that there's these things not that I don't know how to do them, but I haven't practiced them because we've always been moving. And I see that in the kids too, where, we talk about the fact that these are your friends. You're going to have these friends for a really long time. Like, we can't sort of wait out moving on to the next friend circle, right? If there's a conflict within your friend group, you got to solve that. You got to figure that out. And so, not that they don't have those skills, but in some ways they haven't practiced them, because we've been a lot of places, 1 year, 2 years. So the longevity that hasn't existed didn't build some of the skills that I think as a family, I'm finding us all needing to lean on. How do you make friends when you're planning to be there for a long time? It's different than how you make friends if you're planning to be there for a minute, which is kind of how we've done it up until now. So that's what I'm finding hard, is just, I'm realizing there's these deficits that I have that I didn't realize that I had, simply because of always moving didn't force me to sort of develop those, those skills as well as I might have liked. So that's what I'm sort of working through, and what I'm trying to help the kids work through in us having this stability. And that's awesome. But there is a piece of that that's new and different in terms of how we then operate in our environment that we're going to have to learn.
Yeah. One of the things you and I talked about offline just a little bit, Jen, was the fact that you're coming up to that first cycle where your children will be staying, but their friends will be PCSing. Their military friends will be PCSing. And so it's going to be this whole new stage of them staying behind and not being part of that moving on process. And that there's going to be some feelings of sadness, maybe loss, maybe uncertainty, a little bit of an identity crisis. I know that that when our family went through that the first time, this last PCS cycle during the summer, and all their military friends were now leaving and they were staying behind, there was some real like, we're not because usually there's that feeling of, I know I'm going to leave in a few months too, so it's okay, we're all leaving. And now my kids are not leaving, they're staying in this home for at least the next 10-ish years, right? There's like, it's dealing with those emotions, you're having them and your children are having. I think that's so important to bring up, like just recognizing that your children are feeling that same kind of loss that maybe we as military spouses are as well, and fears. So, okay. All right. Olivia, let's pull you in. What would you say is what's your big struggle?
Honestly, my big struggle is watching other people finally settle down. When you've gone through the military life for this long, you've seen the whole spectrum. You've seen the newbies and you've seen the folks that are, they're getting out, they're buying the house, they're planting the garden, they're creating their community, and they're thriving. And, I'm ready for that. I am getting weary of the journey. I really am. And it's hard to constantly, when you PCS, you're just a traveler, you're just stopping in, you're not planting roots, you're not becoming a part of the community because you're only going to be there for 2 years. And when you get to a certain age, it was fun. It was fun when we were younger. It really was. It was an adventure when we were younger. But now that we're not so young anymore, it's getting harder to do that. Honestly, it really is getting harder to just pass through these communities when I so desperately want to plug in and plant roots and make friends that are going to be there for the rest of my life and plant my garden that's going to grow as I, grow older. That's honestly the hardest part for me.
I could totally see that. And it's, it's interesting because if you find yourself finally staying in a military community, there's still huge amounts of transition. And I'm fortunate enough that my bestie, right, has decided to stay in the same community as me. But could you imagine if she hadn't, right? It would be a very, very lonely, it is a very lonely life.
The word is devastating. Devastating.
The word would be devastating. It's true.
Yeah.
So, but it's that unknown. And like, I just think this is so interesting. It's what Jen was saying as far as like learning new skill sets about how to make friends that are long-time friends, and then feeling that desire to stay in one place and build a community that is going to stay there for long term. And then Selena, your comments of, and it's coming so fast. Am I actually going to be ready and get everything done for it?
Right.
And that really is what our initial conversation was all about, right? Like we were all like, we can't possibly be the only military spouses feeling this way at this point.
No,
right?
No, we were very vulnerable during that. I mean, obviously because we weren't streaming live to other people, but I just wanted to, you guys had all said that. It's funny how when you're staying somewhere and then you go out, like the way you make friends is a little different now because you almost say, dang, they'd be so great, but my heart can't invest just a temporary friendship right now, constantly. And I have to find the long-term and the place that you stay. And I just hearing you all say that, I was like, yeah, like, and luckily for us, when we decided to stay here, the big reason is we wanted our daughter to graduate with her friends that she's had, and her best friends, luckily her parents are also staying here. So they'll be graduating together in the next couple of years. But I think that's kind of rare sometimes, right? For our kids. I didn't think about that until you mentioned that about you and Jen having that conversation. So many things we have to like think of. It's not just ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I'd be super curious for anybody that's watching right now, like, what are your pressing questions? Like, pop them in the comments. What are your pressing, like, what is your answer to this question? The most difficult part of where the stage you're currently at? Because I'd love to hear just like kind of what people who are watching are thinking. But as we wait for that to come in, I do want to move on to kind of the final piece, because I promised these ladies I'd only steal a half an hour of their time, and we're right at 30 minutes right now. So the last little piece, I just wanted each of them to share a piece of advice for military spouses and kind of who are starting this transition process and going through the same, series of countdown months, and just what would you say to them? So I'm just going to do this. Oh, look, Olivia, you're the winner.
Surprise. No, I was going to say, Anna, normally I get an hour for my therapy sessions, but it's okay. 30 minutes will work. So my advice, first of all, lean on the wisdom of your friends. I mean, start talking about this stuff, because when you bury your head in the sand and you just pretend it's never going to happen, just wait, guys. It's coming. It's absolutely coming. So lean on the wisdom of your friends. Start talking about it. I know it's hard to plan. It is hard to plan when things are just so in flux. I mean, we could land anywhere. We could retire anywhere. So making a plan feels impossible right now, but maybe start trying to determine where you might want to land. Do we want to land in Nashville or San Antonio or whatever, and kind of start setting your sights on that. But yeah, that's what I got, Anna.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. All right, let's see who's going to be the next winner of this answer question.
Ta-da, Jen! Yay! I think the thing that comes to mind for me in terms of advice, in addition to what Olivia said, which is spot on, is I think my advice would be take a look at how you're communicating as a couple and as a family, because I think that can often become the key to making it an easy, honest, open process where you have the voice to say, here's where I want to live. Here's here's what I want to do professionally. How does this fit into our plans? And so I think that starts with really great communication between you and your spouse, and bringing your children into that if that's part of it. I think that's how you get to answers that involve everybody, and that everybody can be really comfortable in when there's so many questions that you have to solve when it comes to where and when and how and all the things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jen. All right, Selena, what would you say?
Okay, so my husband was initially going to retire 3 years ago, right? But then they gave him a promotion and we ended up here in Fort Hood. And so at that time, I didn't really have a lot of friends like Olivia and Jen and Anna to lean on. I didn't create that solid community. So if you're in the same boat that I was back then, my advice is just, there's so many Facebook communities for military spouses that are retiring that I joined, just to kind of see and feel the temperature that everybody else is going through, and maybe see things that, it's not on the paper that comes home with your husband that says, you're going to go and join this session and this thing and that thing. And, I really wanted to kind of tap into that. So, and I will say LinkedIn, Olivia and Jen and Anna, they belong to a lot of great resourceful companies and organizations that can help those that are transitioning. So LinkedIn, honest to God, it's not just about finding a job. I know there's always people like LinkedIn, but I'm not looking for a job. No, it's a great resourceful place. So Facebook communities and LinkedIn is my advice for the lonely ones like me.
The lonely ones. I love it. Yeah, thank you, ladies. Fantastic advice for our military spouses that are watching right now. So before we kind of close out, I do want to give Jen an opportunity to, here we go. Hardest part to retire was to do it in 2020 when COVID shut everything down. I hear you. Mm-hmm. Yep. Same, no ceremony, last day of work, no closure, same spring, no graduation, robbed us so many things, left the community, moving back. Okay. Elizabeth, I can so relate to this. I'm just going to pause for just a moment, because we also retired during that COVID timeframe where there was nothing. And I just had a conversation with Jen yesterday about this, no ceremony. I mean, he got in his car and drove to pick up the flag and the certificate, brought me home my certificate, signed by whoever, I don't even know, right? Because I barely even looked at it, because there was no formal recognition of that end of that process for us. So just a special, like, little heartfelt, I understand for all those families that just did this during a pandemic. Like, it like added an extra layer of just difficulty to the process. And we're not totally out of that. So Selena, I'm really sorry. You know, hopefully it'll go much better for you. We're going to have that ceremony.
We are
plan a party.
Yeah, we are. Right? We're planning we want to plan a huge thing for John. You know what I mean? Anna and I've had so many conversations. I'm like, let's just do this. I have no idea how to do it. I'm like, I don't know what happens at a ceremony, guys. So
it'll be like the 2 years post-retirement massive, party. Cause now we can have a group in our, in our backyard. I don't know.
Right.
So anyway. Gosh. Okay, so I do want, I mentioned, backing up just for a second, I want to give Jen a chance to talk about the Evolve Retreat, because the Evolve Retreat is, Jen, tell us about the Evolve Retreat.
Thanks, Anna. So for those who may not know, so this is an organization I run called Pride and Grit. We sponsor this event. So this is something we put on. This is the second time, and it's really focused on this pocket of spouses. So seasoned spouses, those who are, way pre-transition, in the middle of transition, recently completed transition. It's really just a chance for you to do some personal development, because that's not something that I think we make a lot of time for. So we have some amazing guest speakers that are going to talk about kind of all things identity and burnout, and kind of the stories that we tell ourselves sometimes, and just how do we really move forward from a place of personal strength. And then on the second day, I'm going to be running a Clifton Strengths workshop, because that's my other love. And so I'll be spending some time helping people understand kind of how they show up and how they can do more, how they can show up more in the ways that really, really bring them joy. Because that's what we all need a little more of. So that's a 2-day event. All the details can be found on prideandgrit.com. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I just dropped the link down in the comments, and I'll make sure and put it on LinkedIn as well for everybody that's watching right now. But you can get your seat just by clicking there, and just go see what the Evolve Retreat's offering. I personally cannot wait for it. I missed it last year, which I think it really would have helped during our transition process. But I missed it because we were moving, with that final resting place, kind of thing. That's what we were doing during that time frame. But and super excited for it.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
Which is just, because we're on a SpouseLink thing, I definitely want to make sure I give a shout out to AFMA and to SpouseLink for their support. They are responsible for making sure that all the attendees have a workbook in hand, so that they can kind of capture their thoughts and their learnings throughout the weekend and be able to refer back to that. So really grateful for you all for seeing, this need and helping me support this need.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you. SpouseLink is sponsoring a portion of Jen's Evolve Retreat, and we're very excited about it, because we definitely see it as something that's holding value for seasoned spouses.
I'm just jumping in.
Like
I'm just jumping in. I am a prior year. I went to last year's, and I went first to support Jen, but then I told her after, I was like, whoa, like this was like my favorite event that I attended, because I got so much from it. Anna was probably sick of me, because I was like, did you know? And she pulled out her old strengths thing that she had done at another. I was like, there are so many wonderful parts of this retreat, Jen. And I'm so glad there's a second year. I just bought my ticket like the other day. So anyway, I'm just telling you all, I really went. I went to support, and then it was the event I didn't realize I needed. So thank you, Jen, for doing all of that and not being tired enough to do another one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So if you don't have your tickets, now you have the link to go and pick those up. So join us at the Evolve Retreat. Olivia, Jen, Selena, thank you so much for jumping on here. I know it wasn't as like casual chit-chatty as like our initial conversation, but I feel like you offered so much value to people who are just watching and feeling those same pains and just needing a space to be able to talk it out, talk it through, and realize that they're not alone in whatever stage of retirement they're at, that they're not alone in feeling the frustrations and the excitement and the sadness and the loneliness and just all the things that come, and the undecisions, right? That's not the right word, but I'm making it up right now. The undecisions of retirement, right? I'm going to make that word up. So thank you so much for joining me today. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to connect with you offline if they'd like to, if they have questions about what you do or who you are or how you can help. Remember, they each have their own thing. Olivia works with Hire Military. If you're looking for a job, this is your lady. Jen is pride and grit and strengths coach. You know, if there's I'm doing this because I think you're over there, but there she is over there. So if you're looking for some support in that identity transition and just that seasoned spouse need, then Jen is your lady. And then Selena, who's like the queen of website design and small business success, right there. So let me throw up your, yeah, I know. I'm trying to get that backwards thing. It's so difficult.
I can only do up.
Right. So Selena, can we start with you? Can you just tell everyone how to find you?
I mean, you can't not find me, guys. Like literally, just I'm everywhere. So go all the places. But I'm on LinkedIn. My personal website's thehaoli.com because I'm from Hawaii. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and most recently we launched our website together, AnnaandSelena.com. I'm excited about that. Anyway, that's where you can find me, all over the place.
Olivia, can you just pop in and tell them where to connect?
Find me where I live, and that's on LinkedIn. So
she does it so
and that's
well.
where they'll find a lot of opportunities through Hire Military as well. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and then Jen.
And I am on obviously Pride and Grit, as was mentioned, and then also Pride and Grit Facebook and Instagram. And I just realized, because I just launched it, I think my website is wrong. So Selena actually helped me put together jenpasquale.com, which is my coaching website. But I think when I put it and I gave it to you, I wasn't used to putting it out into the world. So that's kind of funny. So
I'll correct that, and we'll make sure and get it out on
no worries.
Yeah, we'll make sure we'll put it in the comments. We'll make sure everybody knows exactly where they can come and find you, Jen. And really, if there's any questions, you just go to that Pride and Grit and send her a message through there, and you'll be able to reach her through there.
Absolutely.
As well.
I mean, can I manifest this out into the universe right now? I feel like somebody needs to hire us and we just have a podcast, and then we just taking questions, and every podcast is us just discussing the question that was submitted. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, just putting it out there, whoever wants to hire the four of us to just create a podcast.
Okay. I'm going to second that. I'm seconding that manifestation. Jen's like, I cannot put another thing on my plate right now.
No, Jen, you just show up and talk, Jen. That's all. You don't have to do anything. Yeah, you can do that, right? All right. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. Thanks for having us on, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. So before we say goodbye, I want to just thank everybody for joining us at this SpouseLink live stream. I'm going to throw this up there. I would love for you to jump on and grab get on our email list. So I do 2 SpouseLink live streams every month, and I just send a link directly to your inbox. Just lets you know what's coming up, what the topic is. And if it's something you're interested, then you have 3 options between YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live. And so we'd love for you to join. Sign up there, and I'll drop the link directly into the comments as well. And then I want to make sure and let you all know that our next SpouseLink live stream that I did mention a little bit earlier, but it is on March 28th, and we're going to talk about an agile transition, which is staying organized during retirement. And you're just going to get blown away. I mean, really, somebody else has done all the work. So take advantage of it. So if you're looking for something like this and you're not quite sure where to start, this is a great starting place for you. So I hope to see you all join me on the 28th. All right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that joined us today, and we will see you soon. Yeah?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.